Hello everybody. Today I'm going to discuss the advantages or disadvantages of working part-time or full-time. It's a choice that you have to make at different parts of your career. I have worked for part-time as well as full-time, and I can speak in favor of both. So, the general advantages around working part-time is the flexibility around growing family, and it's easy to pick up and drop off children and work around the school. You've got more time for developing a second mainstream or develop an extracurricular activity or study for a course. So the biggest advantage of working part-time is the extra free time. If you want to pursue any further degree or courses or get a better job, and just bide your time doing what you have to do now, such as raising a family or doing a second degree. So the free time allows you to take care of yourself as well as your home in terms of sleeping better, exercising, preparing healthy meals, and spending time towards improving your home and garden. These are all important aspects of life. We don't just work to make money or work and then sleep. There is life in between, and it's got to be balanced. So also, if you're a creative person, a writer or an artist, you can use the extra time to allow you to develop those skills and get better opportunities and greater work satisfaction. So your chances of getting employed as a part-timer are also higher than a full-timer, as many employees nowadays want to only work part-time because of the lockdown, and also if you're just starting out and you're not sure whether you want to give all your days to that particular job, then it's good for the employee as well as for the employers. More employers are wanting to employ part-timers. That's because if one part-timer goes off sick or goes on holiday, they've got other part-timers covering their fewer hours rather than having bigger gaps in work hours. Also, if they're not sure about hiring you as a full-timer, this gives them an opportunity to know you better and know your work ethics and your work habits if they give you a job as a part-timer rather than a full-timer. So you may also end up making more money if you start out as a part-timer, because this allows you to prepare for other money-making activities such as working from home or working in a family business or helping support a spouse who's starting a new business or in an already established business or family. So full-timers tend to get more worn out and more stressed compared to part-timers. In my experience, I have seen that people who work full-time, they haven't got time for themselves. Part-time, I mean, is like 2 to 3 days a week or 4 to maximum 6 hours a day. Whereas full-time work is at least 5 days a week, and then you can take a day off for holidays in between, but it's usually 4 to 5 long days, which doesn't leave you more time. And on top of that, if you got commute, if you got to travel to work, you can add an extra hour or two traveling, or sometimes more, and that can just take up most of the day. The time that you could have spent having an extra hour in bed or preparing your room, preparing yourself, you just have to get up, rush, get ready and go, and just hope that your car's working better, the commute is all right, and the work goes best. Just trying to hold on to a job, and if it's a demanding job, a stressful job, you've got all those stresses and you come back tired, just ready to eat and go to sleep. So you can understand from what I'm saying that, in my opinion, working part-time is better than working full-time. However, full-time work also has its advantages in terms of a good paycheck. You don't have to worry about doing your own tax returns. If you're a self-employed person, then you have to do your own tax returns if you're a part-timer. Whereas if you're in a full-time employment, they do all the calculations for you. They keep your pension and add something to the pension, which is good on the long run. You have the stability of a full-time job, a good income coming in that helps pay for your home and your mortgages, bills, children and holidays, as well as help you have some savings. So you've got to balance it out, what works best for you and what pays better, as well as what exposes you to more opportunities. So if you don't have the responsibilities to pay a mortgage, house bill, child care, school fees, etc., then you might actually save more money working part-time by tackling your expenses based on your earnings. So this is the general picture. I have found that if you work 4 to 6 hours a day instead of an 8 to 10 hour shift, you still spend the same amount of time getting ready for work and commuting to work and back, and that leaves you just another 2 or 3 hours extra in the day. So if I was to choose between working 8 or 10 hours a day for 2 to 3 days a week as compared to working 4 to 6 hours a day over 5 days a week, I would choose working 2 to 3 days, long days, and then have the remaining 4 or 5 days free, and I don't waste time commuting, I don't waste time getting ready for that particular work, and I've got more free time at home or for whatever else I want to do. So you've got to base that according to what stage of life you are in. For example, after I completed university in India, I already had a flourishing tutoring business at home. I was teaching 10 children who were coming to my house, and I had started in my year 1 at pharmacy college, started tuitions 1 to 2 children, and that just increased to 10 children, and that was giving me a good income, enough pocket money as a student. And so I decided to work only part-time. I took a marketing job because I wanted to understand the field and where medicines are being used and the different doctors and hospitals utilizing medicines, as well as my pre-registration training in a pharmaceutical industry in India had exposed me to the different departments of manufacturing, and sales was one department that I wanted to pursue, but not full-time, simply because I didn't want to give 5 or 6 days a week traveling and going to different hospitals. I also had this business at home which I wanted to continue, and it also allowed me to have some rest and look after myself, which as a young lady I wanted at that time. So working part-time in India was my thing. I saw that the managers and regional managers were highly stressed. They were like pressure cookers when we had our team meetings, and I didn't want to end up like one of them. Also, I was preparing to come to UK. I was preparing for the entrance exam in the UK. So I just decided to not work and focus on my entrance exam. In between, I did a beauty course, and working part-time and working partly from home allowed me the flexibility to take that in my stride. So when I came to UK and I went to Sunderland University, you mix with children, adults at that time, you mix with students who aspire to go to London and have a full-time career. I was happy working in the same town where my father was, where my parents were, and I took on full-time work from 1996 as a pre-reg pharmacist, then a pharmacist and a manager, and I carried on working full-time, which is 5 days a week in England, allowing you about 5 days as 5 days or 5 weeks as holidays each year. And that worked for me till I had 3 children. I have totally 4 children, so I had to make a change when my 3rd child was born, although I was living next door to my parents by then. and we had paid off our home, I then thought about working just part time. So I had to prepare for it a year before I actually took the step and gave my resignation. The manager wanted me to take on a position of a district manager and take on some more pharmacies and manage them for Lloyd's Pharmacy. But I said no, I have to take my daughter to nursery. She's been living with my mother. She doesn't speak English very well, and it'll be hard for her to settle in the nursery with the teachers. So I decided to let go of my flourishing manager's position and decided to work as a locum. We used to employ locums when I needed time off, for maternity leave or on my days off. The locums are freelance pharmacists. They usually get a slightly higher hourly rate. They don't have all the responsibilities of a manager. They don't get paid the sick leave or holidays or pension. They have to pay for their own training and their own professional indemnity insurance, but they have the flexibility of working where they want and how many days a week they want. They can even take 6 months off. Some of the locums work 6 months and then they go on holidays traveling the world for 6 months. So that was my next thing. My next step was to become a pharmacy locum. I started off working 1 day a week for the same pharmacy where I was a manager, and I could give back more in that 1 day because I knew the customers, the patients and the systems. But that freed up my 6 days to take my daughter to nursery and to stay in the nursery with her until she was ready to be left on her own, and then to look after the other children, take them out. And I could then book more locum work when my children were off and I had family next door to look after. My husband was off on the weekends, and so I started working 2 to 3 days a week. That gave me enough money that I needed at that time. I also qualified as a homeopath, so I had a clinic 1 day a week, doing this complementary medicine thing, and I was working as a locum on the weekend. And then I decided to study MBA, so the locuming went hand in hand. I was working on the weekends as a locum pharmacist. I was studying for MBA Monday to Friday. I was actually burning myself at both ends, and at times I felt I was working more than a full-timer. Especially, I made a mistake of booking 30 days of work back to back, no days off, and I ended up in a crutch. I remember going to buy my children's school uniforms for the next term, having worked the whole August, 30 days in a row, and I was on a crutch. I was holding a stick to go to walk. My knee was injured because of the repetitive stress. And so I made up my mind that I'm going to now allow myself an annual holiday with the children. And locuming allowed that. I could take time off around the children. So I carried on working as a locum for 16 years, from 2004 up until last year. And in between, I developed my property business. I could do a lot more in my own business, and I got an opportunity to expand my property business to a level where I wouldn't have made that money working full-time as a pharmacist. At the same time, I had an income coming on from the locum work, so that was a win-win situation for me. As soon as I started another business, we had the lockdown and it went quiet, so I just shut it and immediately took on a full-time manager's position with Asda in Colchester, which I really enjoy and I can contribute to with all the experience I have had. And I will continue working in this position until I want to do something else. It works for me for now, it works for the family, and it's a contribution to society when not many people want to work full-time. I'm working as a frontline person helping patients take their medicines, and so yes, this full-time work is worthwhile while my properties are also bringing in the rent in the background. So all in all, I would say work full-time or part-time as you need. There's no hard and fast rule. I would like to retire at least 5 times in my life, rethink my career options, and start again. Thank you for now.